Hello, everybody. My name is Jürgen Moors, and welcome to another episode of XR Frontier. Now, the last two episodes, we focused a little bit more about or on haptic solutions, on alternative hardware that you can use besides your XR goggles or headset. And now let's focus on what typical examples or what typical industries might benefit from haptic gloves, for instance, or from haptic suits. Well, one of them is, of course, healthcare. And healthcare is really crucial that our surgeons during their education can train, can practice, especially complicated operations or complicated surgery. This is not always possible, but with a haptic suit, you can learn a certain training. You can train it a lot. You can practice before you actually use it because you get the feeling or you can simulate together with your haptic gloves what you should feel when you're actually doing the surgery in a body. So that's typically one example where you find haptic suits and haptic gloves, healthcare. Another example is manufacturing. In manufacturing, it can bring a lot more safety, it can a lot more efficiency, and where we see it right now is a lot more for training. Also there are periods in a manufacturing cycle where it's a lot more slow, and in other periods it's a lot more busy. In those busy manufacturing cycles, typically going up to Christmas, for instance, there are some temporary workers hired. You need to train them very, very fast. Well, that's a moment where you can actually use haptic technology so that they learn what it is and feel what it is to work with a certain component, or with actually practice with something that takes a lot of practice to make it perfect. For instance, welding. Before you can actually do a perfect weld, it takes you a whole trajectory. And also for welding, you can already find virtual trainings also used with haptic suits, where you get a feeling of actually having this torch in your hand and making a certain movement. It's another example where you can, for instance, use haptic technology. Gaming and entertainment, no example needed there. If you want to do a gaming experience into a virtual environment where it's warm, where it's cold, when you get shot with a laser beam, for instance, where it locally really gets warm. And this is something where you can also see right now a lot of haptic technology already being deployed. And last but not least, but I already mentioned it a little bit more in manufacturing and also in healthcare, is actually training and education. We see more and more haptic technology also coming up there. And in the future, you will probably see that haptic technology around suits, around gloves, that it will come into more and more industries, and also with more and more different applications than I just summed up. So this is a little bit about, or ends up the three different blocks that we made, or episodes that we made about haptic technology. What types, how does the technology work a little bit in more detail, and which industries will you find it right now. Thank you very much for watching this episode of XR Frontier, and I hope to see you next time in a new episode of XR Frontier. Bye-bye.